Ah, welcome. I'm glad you could stop by. It's another Murdoch Music Minute, but this time let's change things up a little bit, be more civilized and sophisticated. Things don't need to be always that loud and brash and amplified. Why not get into a little bit of classical music with me? And what better place to start than with the composer who laid the foundation for any heavy metal guitar shredding. It's good old John Sebastian, or known to his friends as Johann Sebastian Bach. The things you do in conference hotels. Welcome back to Murdoch's Music Minute in its usual surroundings. If we really want to get into classical music, which I like to listen to but don't listen to very often, and certainly do not come with a profound knowledge, Bach seems to be a good place to start. He really left his footprint in popular music, of course, without knowing it during his lifetimes. And there are several interesting aspects to his music. First of all, maybe a little look at his life and biography. Together with Beethoven, he belonged to those classical composers who changed places a lot. Bach's whole family had a long history in music, mostly church music. He was the youngest of 8 siblings, and the Protestant family lived in Eisenach in middle Germany, where Bach was born in 1865. As was not uncommon in those days, Bach very early became an orphan, namely at the age of around 8 or 9 years. For a while, Johann Sebastian grew up in the home of his older brother Johann Christoph in a town called Ohrdruf, not too far from Eisenach, and Johann Sebastian also went to school there. His brother was the church organist of Ohrdruf. Johann Sebastian shared this fascination for music and started to learn everything he could about music during this time with his brother. But he then continued his higher education in the Michaelis Cloister in Lüneburg, which was in a very different region of Germany, several kilometers up north. During his time as a student there, he immersed himself more and more in the study of music theory, but also learning instruments. After having finished school, he then appeared as a violinist in the services of the Duke of Sachsen-Weimar. After a short while, Bach then became the new church organist for the new church in Arnstadt, in his home county, and it was also there that he composed his first notable works. In 1707, Bach moved yet again to the city of Mühlhausen, where he became the church organist and also married his fiancée Maria Barbara, who had been a singer. But Bach's constant changing places was not at an end yet. He was invited by the Duke of Sachsen-Weimar to become his court organist and instrumentalist in the city of Weimar. That was, of course, a job with a high reputation. So Bach gladly accepted and moved there with his family in 1708. During that time in Weimar, his wife gave birth to 6 children, while Johann Sebastian composed the majority of his main works. Eventually, Bach was promoted concert master, which meant a higher regular income for him, but also more obligations to regularly compose church cantatas. In 1717, Bach received the offer to become the court music director for the Prince Secular of Anhalt-Köthen. This was the beginning of another run of successful years for Bach as a composer. He also apparently had a very good relationship with the Prince of Anhalt-Köthen. Yet in 1720, his wife died after a short illness. Bach remarried in 1721 his second wife, another singer, Anna Magdalena. Bach moved to another city yet again when he became the musical director of the established Thomaner choir and the cantor of the Thomas Church in Leipzig, very beautiful city, by the way. And this took place in 1723. It should become yet another very productive phase in Bach's work. In 1729, Bach additionally took over the Collegium Musicum, which was a student ensemble with which he performed secular works and concertos. In his last years, Bach suffered from an eye disease and he died from the consequences of a stroke in 1750. Bach's oeuvre is extremely diverse, even though he maybe is mainly seen or known as a composer of religious church music. He in fact composed for all popular genres of his times, with the only exception being the opera. So what you will find in the works of Bach are, and please forgive me for openly reading this from a list here, cantatas, oratorios, which are dramatic and narrative compositions, putting usually biblical stories to music. It's not really an opera, but a kind of pre-form to the opera, usually with a religious story as the background. Chorals and church hymns, of course, sonatas and suites, solo pieces for lute, orchestral works and concertos, and of course, numerous pieces for organ, cembalo, and the piano. Bach did not really invent the genres and styles we are talking about here. He strongly drew from musical traditions that had been around, especially from Germany and Austria, but most of all, of course, also from Italy. But what is special about Bach, who never received a formal training in composition, is that he refined the techniques used in those genres, and he added a technicality to it hitherto unknown or unheard. He was the forerunner of standardized tunings for instruments and revolutionized harmonics in the Baroque era. He is, besides all that, known as the master of the counterpoint technique. Yeah, and this is where I definitely realize I've shot myself in the foot with this classical music segment, because instead of going, hey, the electric guitar really rocks out on this track, I now need to try and explain and, first of all, understand myself what the counterpoint technique really is. Bad idea, Njörg. Bad idea. So counterpoint denotes a compositional technique in which two instrumental lines, also referred to as voices in music, are played simultaneously. And those lines are related harmonically, but are independent from each other in terms of phrasing and rhythm. So it sounds as if you hear, two melodies at the same time, or maybe three melodies at the same time that are sort of played against each other, hence counterpoint. That's my very basic and, layman definition or attempt of explaining the counterpoint. It's probably best if we listen to the master himself. Here's an example of counterpoint in music by Bach. The most complex use of counterpoint usually can be heard in the fugue, and that is a style or a genre in which Bach really excelled. All this often has given Bach also the image of being a very stern, mathematical composer. And indeed, I mean, after all, music is strongly connected to mathematics. And what else is music than sort of measured or structured time? This can all seem often very theoretical and, as mentioned, a bit stern, maybe dry, you know, technicality over emotion. But in the music of Bach, this is really fascinating. And well, just try to play this on an electric guitar, and what you actually arrive at is classically inspired metal shredding. During his lifetime, Bach was regionally respected and very well known. Also, musicians around Europe were aware of his works. But after his death, Bach's works were not performed anymore. This simply wasn't common or not an approach, an attitude in music performance history back in the days. Composers wrote pieces for specific events or, well, simply for their contemporary listeners. And when those composers had passed away, there was no need, or, the merits were not seen of, performing works of dead composers. So Bach slipped into obscurity. Also, the tastes in music changed considerably in the second half of the 18th century. Afterwards, famous composers like Beethoven or Mozart studied the works of Bach, but more in terms of, gaining theoretic knowledge, and more in kind of, academic fashion to, learn about the Baroque composition techniques. Indeed, it took until the 19th century that Bach became a worldwide famous composer. Two of the main catalysts of this rediscovery of Bach were a biography on Bach by a German music historian called Nikolaus Forkels, and Felix Mendelssohn Bertoldi, a young composer also working in Leipzig, who started to perform and conduct works of Bach, and thus sort of kickstarted the slowly spreading renaissance of Bach. This eventually led to the foundation of the Bach Society by, among others, famous composers such as Robert Schumann and Franz Liszt. all names we maybe need to talk about in separate episodes. But hey, why now listen to this music which slowly but certainly is approaching 400 years? As I have mentioned in the beginning, Bach's music and also his story techniques actually can be found in popular music of the 20th century as well. I have already talked a little bit about the influence on fast heavy metal guitar playing, and all that started certainly in the 1970s. Listen, for instance, to some solos by Ritchie Blackmore in Deep Purple. But Bach was also interpreted or, left his marks in jazz music. In more psychedelic pop songs of the late 60s, for instance, Procol Harum's Wider Shade of Pale actually is based on a piece by Bach. Also, the Zombies had a song that used a melody, very close to something that Bach could have written.
Summer days just after summer rain.
And then, of course, the wide field of progressive rock very much looked into, pieces, influences from Bach. Bands like Focus or Exception, or probably more famous Keith Emerson in both The Nice and then later with Emerson, Lake and Palmer, to name just a few examples. And I probably could go on for several minutes. But to, not simply look at how you could use elements from Bach in rock music, but to really get into, the real stuff, where to start? He has left a huge canon of works, and I tried to pick out a few of my favorites that are sort of, easy to digest. I would not suggest to start with a 2-hour oratorium by Bach, but here is a little list of Bach's smash hits, including a cantata about the joys of drinking coffee. That's a very Viennese topic, actually. I hope this was enjoyable for you. Maybe you got a little glimpse into a different genre. And if you're feeling very Baroque now, try some Bach. Maybe you are Bach experts, and then you can tell me where to go from these, pieces for beginners. I might do a few more of those getting into classical music episodes on my channel. But for now, that's it from me. Back to me in a conference hotel in Zagreb. Thank you. Just wonderful. Wonderful. Do it the classical way and give Bach a chance. And don't miss the next Murdoch Music Minute. Thank you and good night, wherever you are.